Gundam.tk presents Master Grade Monkey D. Luffy. Hey again everybody, it's Robert184, 2Rs2Bs, Gundam.tk, which is GundamReviews.net, but today I'm taking a look at the Master Grade Figurerise Monkey D. Luffy, and you've seen everything from the unbox, the parts, the plates, and the figure, and now I've got a list of all the good and bad things that I can think of for this kit so that you can make a call whether this is something you want to pick up to add to your collection. As Luffy gets ready to throw an attack, I'll kick off with some of the bad things about this, and I'll pretty much start bottom to top. With the sandals, you can see that they're going to fall off every once in a while, and that's not going to be a very good thing. When you combine that with the fact that you've got these white parts which are sitting on there very loosely, they haven't fallen off, which doesn't seem to be a problem, but you can just see that they're not on all that securely. Overall, once you get into the waist section, you'd think that a figure like this would be able to move all over the place and have a full rotation and stuff like that. That's just not going to happen, and in some of these poses, even though there is that extra part underneath the belly there, every once in a while it's going to look a little bit awkward when you put it on. The jacket you've actually got to take apart if you want to put it onto the body, and it doesn't sit on there very well. It's going to be loose in places. Where it is now, it's squeezed into place, but if you try to do anything outside of that, it's just going to be a little bit strange. And you can see that these shoulders, no matter what figure builders of any toy company have to do, you're always going to see the joints whenever you try to put them in. This one does a pretty good job of hiding it, but they're still going to be very visible there. The white thing that holds on the hat, I'm just talking about this drawstring underneath, most of the time is going to end up in his mouth getting chewed on, and it doesn't look very good down there. You can't get the hat in a very nice position. It doesn't have a natural lock position down on the back where it's going to want to stay naturally. And the fact that the white that's going to stick out there, it's not a very good plus. In terms of the decals up on the top, if you wanted to put some decals onto the hat, you've got that red part there, and it's going to look okay, but it's going to bubble up just whenever you put on something, a seal of that length. Maybe water slides would be better, but also it looked pretty cheesy, some of the other decals, like the scar and the eyebrows and things like that. I tried putting one of them on and it just doesn't seem to work, so again, you're probably way better off using lining markers or real touch markers just to add things up. Now, in terms of the big problems, though, with this kit, you can see one of them right there, and that's in terms of the action base. They tell you not to screw things in too tight, and even if you do whatever you can with that, it's not going to stay in place. And especially with this figure is designed to have ridiculous poses with these crazy limbs sticking out all over the place, which is what I'm trying to show off here. And the fact that you can't have a base hold him up in 9 out of 10 of those positions just means that it's not doing its job, and that's actually with 2 different connecting pieces back there to try. You can use the grasper one, it works okay, but otherwise, just the fact that this whole thing is going to collapse down means that you may be stuck with ground poses, and if you're stuck with ground poses, you can't really use the stretchy limbs. Now, the stretchy limbs themselves, this kit could have been a lot smaller with less plates, because they're really dull. The legs are just 2 parts that you put together. The arms at least are going to get some shoulders and some fists, but the fists are built into it, but these are just a long single piece, so if you're looking for an interesting build, you can't expect that from the stretchy arms, and if they had sold it without this kit could have been a lot cheaper, and I'd rather have an effective base than be paying 3,800 yen for things that don't seem to want to work. One other complaint is just that I haven't been using the hat too much just because it really sits at an awkward angle. It would have been nicer if you could have moved this around into more positions. It can sit in pretty much the one locked in one and then one additional one, but it's not going to be solid at all. And in terms of the extras, they're fun, but the coloring isn't all that great, and the fact that they give you a seal that's practically the same color just seems a little bit disappointing. But are there positives? Yes, there absolutely are. First of all, for me who builds a lot of Gundams, it was fun to just step out of the shell there and try something a little bit different here. In terms of the Figurerise figures, people have said some good things I've heard about various ones. But anyway, this is the one I wanted to try just because of the anime and the manga, and I don't regret the purchase for a second. Because, first of all, the build is fun. When you're putting together the legs and the feet and the sandals and you see the details that go into there. But it's once you start getting into the limbs, and even though they're very simple, they do a very good job of doing things like hiding the seam lines, and it's the ingenious slide-out system down here and the fact that it's hidden up in there. I'm very impressed with every part of the legs, especially the way the jeans look, because if you just put in a little bit of effort with the real touch markers, they can look fantastic there. The white isn't too white if you add some gray, and the blue jeans look great, and the fact that they can move around all over the place is fantastic. For the upper body, I like the details like the gold buttons on the red vest, and you've got those very simple lining opportunities there, but they're enough. But it's the shoulders and the fact that these can move all over the place. Well, even though I did complain that they expose some of the joints that can't be helped, they do a very good job of hiding it, as do the arms. You can see here the stretchy one, Yes, it's very plain, but you do get the bonuses of having 4 sets of shoulders there. But it's this other arm where the fact that you can pull out this lower part, pull out the upper part, bend everything into place. You've got 2 different hands to swap out there. The wrists are going to move everything where you want them to be. The head is going to move around. It's got great posability, and you combine that with the fact that you're getting the 2 sets of hair and the 3 faces. I like all 3 of the faces for various things. You can use all of them for silly ones, serious ones, or angry ones as you're seeing there. I'm really happy with all the extras that you're going to be getting in terms of the head, and that's the most important part, really. If only the hat worked a little bit better, but it's going to be okay, just nothing fantastic, although you do have to give them credit for giving you good lighting opportunities. And despite all the negative things that I've been saying so far about this base, what you do have to give it credit for is that if you're just using it as a support instead of an aerial launcher, you can actually do a lot of different things like with it, because it is going to allow the long limbs to do what they do best, which is stretch out, and it's going to keep Luffy in position. The only thing is, if you really try to have too high expectations and have it up in the air with crazy legs kicking forward, 2 legs at a time or stuff like that, it's not going to happen. If you treat it as a 3rd leg though, then things are going to work, and poses like this become no problem whatsoever if you don't mind seeing this support. So my final verdict here is going to be really subjective, because I'm going at building this figure as a One Piece fan who also is a Master Grade fan. So the fact that we're getting Luffy and Master Grade put together in Figurerise line for me is a big bonus. If I was looking at it just as a build by itself, I'd say it's a very interesting build. In terms of display though, it looks a little bit cheesy, and there are those problems with the display stand and the weight of the limbs, etc. But for me, as a One Piece fan, I'm happy that I purchased this. It was exciting to try something different compared to a Gundam. The Figurerise line seems to be doing pretty well, and I'm happy that I got this one. He pulls it off, and he pulls it off mostly because of the strength of the faces and the characters, and pretty much you can move this guy into all the positions that you'd expect Luffy to be in, silly ones and serious ones, everything in between. Combine that with the fact that he can have all the appropriate expression for that, and he's got all the accessories that you can really expect. And I think it was a lot of fun and something I don't regret picking up for a second, but again, something that I'd caution for a hardcore Gundam fan who's only buying this on the strength of it being a Master Grade. So what about the future? Even though Luffy was an early release in the Figurerise line, you haven't seen any One Pieces to follow up, despite the popularity of some of the characters like Sanji or Zoro or things like that. You can just imagine Sanji being there with all these extendable legs, and Zoro would be a lot of fun to put together too. Anyway, the fact that none of them have come out just makes you wonder whether this Luffy didn't sell well, or whether it's just things like the Masked Riders are selling so well that this one just sort of got put on the back burner. Anyway, there's no drought of One Piece merchandise around that you can see Portrait of Pirates right there. The Figure Art Zero line is going to be going for years, at least until the end of the manga and the anime, and if not, into perpetuity. But anyway, everybody, why don't you let me know what you think about this? How does it stack up as a Master Grade? How does it stack up as a plastic model? And how does it stack up as One Piece merchandise? I'd love to hear your opinions, because you probably have more experience purchasing these than I do. But I don't regret having either of them. But I gotta say, this one is the one that's going to stand out on your shelf the most. And this one is just fun because of the things that you can do with it. And you combine that with a good build, and I don't regret it for a second. So I'll wrap up my review there, and I wonder if we will be getting a Sailing Again Luffy or recolors or anything else. Great to speculate about that. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Anyway, Robert184 gudam.tk, thanks for checking out this review, even though it's a little bit different from my regular ones, and stay tuned for lots more traditional Gundam reviews and everything else in between. Thanks for watching, everybody. See ya. Even Luffy appreciates the fact that there's never a dull moment in this manga.